Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. Victoria shouts at the man before her, fury lacing her voice as he holds another woman protectively against him. His fiancée shrieks in disbelief. Does he truly claim that she bullied that woman? Where is his proof? She insists the fault lies with the other. How dare someone of such ordinary birth dream of marrying the prince? The only rightful wife for him is her. But before her tirade can continue, a voice calls her name, then a blade pierces her chest. She freezes, locking eyes with him as blood splatters across his cheek. The villainess who was killed by her own knight. Could it be that she has been reincarnated into her body? The only time she found relief from her exhausting job at the company was when she read romantic novels before bed. But it seems exhaustion finally took its toll on her, because after finishing one of those novels, she found herself departed from life. Or so she thought. As she gazes into the mirror, the reflection staring back is utterly foreign. The face, the body, none of it belongs to her. Bewilderment grips her as she struggles to make sense of the situation. Just then, a maid enters and says Lady Victoria has awakened. The words strike her like lightning. She has been reincarnated as Victoria, the infamous villainess from the romance novel she was reading before her death. The Destined Prince and Cinderella was a fantasy romance novel, centered on a kind-hearted commoner heroine pursued by multiple male characters. As for Victoria Rosewind, she was the villain who tried to obstruct the heroine's path to happiness. Victoria was the daughter of a noble family, but she was arrogant and selfish. To the point of attempting to kill the heroine out of jealousy over her status even though she was from a lower class. In the end, she dies at the hands of her own knight, the very man who now stands before her, his tone calm as he mentions he heard her fever has gone down. He asks if she's feeling better. She replies that she feels perfectly fine. Just then, the maid enters to announce that her meal is ready. With a smile, she brushes past him and says she's on her way. Victoria, the eldest daughter of the distinguished Rosewind family, grew up in a pampered environment where she always got what she wanted. But in the novel, there was no detailed description of Victoria's family. At the table, her younger sister greets her with a bright smile, expressing relief that she's finally awake and admitting she feared she might never recover from the coma. Their father, seated at the head, mentions that numerous letters of concern arrived during her illness. He pointedly asks if it involves another man, advising her to handle matters calmly rather than act impulsively. As she listens, she reminds herself that these are her supposed family members, then shifts her gaze to her sister, recalling that the novel had mentioned the existence of a younger sibling. Her sister brings up the growing unrest among the territory's residents, explaining that complaints have been piling up in the wake of the recent monster attack. Their father grumbles in irritation, demanding to know if the people have forgotten who protects their lands. She continues, mentioning that there are increasing calls to reduce taxes due to the extensive damage to the agricultural fields. In this world, eliminating monsters is one of the noble's most important responsibilities. A monster attack. Even in the novel, this topic was a recurring central theme. She had known it, but now the reality truly sinks in. She is in another world. Her father's voice cuts through her thoughts, declaring they'll strengthen their forces and keep collecting taxes as usual. Without thinking, she blurts out, asking if that means they won't support the residents. Her father's sharp gaze lands on her as he demands an explanation. She calmly points out that if the farmland isn't restored, the region's economy will suffer, so financial and material aid should be considered. The room falls silent before her father bursts into amused laughter, surprised she's speaking about politics. Her mother scolds her for opposing him, while he dismisses her opinion with a wave, suggesting she study economics and administration if she's so interested. Her sister watches quietly, and the knight listens from the shadows. Later, she replays the moment in her head, nerves prickling. Did they suspect anything? She will have to be more careful. But she can't keep pretending forever. If she wants to change her fate, she has to act. And the first step is Kane. This way she will be able to change her fate of death. She startles to find Kane suddenly standing before her, his sharp gaze fixed on her as he demands to know who she is. She instinctively steps back, muttering what he's talking about. He calmly states Lady Victoria never involves herself in political discussions. Lady Victoria doesn't even thank the servants, and she for sure doesn't look servants in the eye when she speaks to them. And of course, she has never done so with him either. But she is different. When she stays silent, his voice hardens as he demands to know why she isn't answering. A chill runs through her. If she keeps quiet any longer, he might actually kill her. Forcing herself to speak, she says she's simply been listening to him. Then, folding her arms, she lets out a scoff. So this is what it's about. A slight change in her behavior, and he's already questioning who she is. She snaps at him, calling him a fool and ordering him to show some respect. She knows if he finds out her truth, he will definitely kill her. Kane's obsession with Victoria was deeper than she expected, but there is hope. The reason behind Kane's obsession with Victoria was revealed in the novel after her death. The truth is, Victoria cast a seduction spell on him, and over time his intense obsession turned into a desire to kill her. If she can break this spell, even if he discovers her secret, he won't kill her. And she will be able to avoid the tragic fate described in the novel. She jabs a finger hard into his chest, snapping at him not to ask such foolish questions again. She has no choice but to keep up the act to play the role of Victoria if she wants to survive. Spinning on her heel, she throws over her shoulder that what he said wasn't the least bit amusing. He only replies calmly that if she truly is Lady Victoria, then that's a relief, and he will continue to serve her as he always has. Before she can react, he suddenly shoves her back onto the bed and pins her down, his face hovering close as his voice drops. As always, he says, he will be at her service. She swallows hard, her pulse quickening as he tells her there's no need to be so nervous. Her thoughts spiral, was this some kind of joke, or were Kane and Victoria close enough that this kind of behavior was normal between them? When his hand trails down her thigh, the question hits harder, were they actually in some kind of relationship? In a moment like this, clear thinking is impossible. She throws her arm over her face to hide, which makes him call her out. Lowering her arm, cheeks flushed, she mutters for him to act a little more kindly. His gaze lingers on her, and then he says evenly, so this is the mood she wants today. Understood. Later, she finds herself lying on her stomach as he massages her back with practiced ease. Her mind drifts uneasily, will this strange psychological game between them continue forever? She mumbles she hopes not under her breath, and he pauses, asking if something's wrong. She also knows if she misunderstands the situation, the only outcome awaiting her is death. Later, at the training grounds, he joins the other knights for their drills. In the middle of sparring, he suddenly snaps his head toward one of the building's windows. Her heart jumps, she ducks out of sight just in time. That was too close. Watching from her hiding spot, she reminds herself that the only time she can move freely is while he's occupied with training. That man never gives her a moment's rest. Shaking her head, she steels herself, there's no room for hesitation or carelessness now. She might meet her end because of the charm magic she cast herself, and perhaps that would be a punishment she deserves. The ending written for Victoria seems like a perfect tragedy for the villainess of the story. But she is not a villainess. This is her second life, a new chance that she has been given. And since she knows how she will die, she will do everything she can to completely avoid it. It would have been better if Victoria had not resorted to using charm magic in the first place, but it is too late for regrets. So the only option left for her is to break the charm magic that has affected Kane with her own hands. But first, she needs to find some evidence. As she browses the shelves, her fingers still when she notices someone approaching, her sister. She studies Fiona from the corner of her eye, wondering whether Victoria's relationship with her had been good, since the novel gave no clear hints. Fiona stops in front of her and asks if she's searching for something. She hesitates, weighing the idea of accepting help since it would be quicker, but in the end, she shakes her head and says there's no need. She still lacks a lot of information about this world, so it is better to keep things as discreet as possible. Victoria casually tells Fiona that if she happens to see her escort knight, she shouldn't mention that she was here. When Fiona asks why, Victoria brushes it off, saying it's nothing important, she's just feeling a little restless. She thinks she covered it well, though a twinge of guilt hits her for lying to someone so sweet. After some searching, she finally finds the book she's been looking for on charm magic. Settling into a quiet corner, she opens it with a spark of anticipation, only to freeze when a voice cuts behind her that she seems awfully excited. She jolts and turns to find Kane standing there, his eyes sharp. Who was she planning to meet in secret? He asks, his tone hard. For a moment, she's baffled by the sudden question, until it clicks what he's implying. The novel had painted Victoria as a greedy woman who shamelessly approached any man she set her sights on, a portrayal that now fuels the madness in his eyes. Who is it? He demands again, his tone edged with possessive suspicion. She realizes that a careless lie could end up dragging innocent people into trouble. She retorts it seems he sees her as a frivolous woman who can easily fall for any man. That is incredibly irritating. And lets him know she is not the type of person who behaves that way. A pause. Before he leans in and murmurs, he apologizes. It seems he misunderstood and also her words just now. Can he interpret them the way he wants? Caging her between his arms, he leans in close and says that being by her side like this is a great privilege for him. Her cheeks heat up as she tries to make sense of the situation, but he doesn't let her divert the conversation and warns not to change the subject. Flustered, she mutters that she's only here to do some research. His eyes narrow. And this research is something she decided on her own. Irritation slips through before she can stop it. What's the problem? Does he object? She snaps then freezes as the weight of her words hits her. This isn't how the real Victoria would have reacted. The original Victoria in the story despised studying. She always relied on lower status girls to do her tasks while she spent her time playing and scheming maliciously. He quietly says since the day she woke up, something hasn't felt right. A strange sense of unease, as if there is something pressing on his chest. He asks her to tell him what is she planning to do. He wants to know everything about her. She tilts her head up and challenges him, asking what if she did. His eyes narrow, and he slowly draws the sword from his back, the threat in his gaze unmistakable. Her heartbeat quickens, but she forces herself to stay calm. If she is truly innocent, there's no reason to show fear. With deliberate composure, she thanks him for his excessive concern, remarking that he has been even more overprotective than usual since that day. She then explains that all she wanted was to listen to her parents' conversation and search for information about the monsters. If that is the case, he says evenly, then why didn't she call for him? She snaps that he's too persistent and declares that she's leaving. But before she can take a step, he suddenly pulls her into his arms from behind as books crash down from the shelves around them. She blinks in surprise, realizing he just shielded her. He steps back slightly, his voice low as he asks if she is hurt. She assures him she is fine before asking if he is okay. He lowers himself and picks up one of the books and tells her not to worry. He is fine and lets her know if she is looking for documents about the monsters they are on the other shelf. He turns and calmly says he will leave to calm himself. She realizes she must break the charm magic soon, her heart can't take this much longer. Flipping through the book, she finds the page on charm magic torn out and wonders who did it. Meanwhile, walking down the hallway, he recalls the worried look in her eyes when she had asked if he was alright. She wasn't supposed to care about someone like him. On the training grounds, as he trains alone, the other knights watch him while whispering how can he swing his sword so boldly. And they guess he is good at showing loyalty, which must be his speciality. But still they never know when he will turn his blade towards his master. After all, he is from that family of traitors. The Glenfall traitors. The disgrace tied to the Glenfall family name began when he was just a child. The Glenfall family was one of the oldest and most prestigious noble houses in the empire. He was born as the eldest son and lived a life like nothing. That was until his parents committed treason against the state. They were executed right before his eyes, mocked as a pair of monstrous criminals. As the child of traitors, his fate was sealed. Even as the boy, his future was grim. Outside, people threw stones at him. Inside, there was no refuge either. There was nowhere safe for him. He wanted strength, the strength to survive, even alone, even one more day. He dedicated himself to training relentlessly, honing his skills. And finally he achieved it. Through earning victories on the battlefield, he gained trust. A knighthood and his very own name. Now he's no longer part of the traitorous Glenfall family. As a simple knight, he was assigned to the Rose Wind family. It was there that he met the woman he loves, Victoria. The woman who looked at him with a smirk and remarked, hiring the son of a family of traitors, her father must be truly magnanimous. But lately, something feels strange about her. Why does Lady Victoria feel like a different person? He couldn't possibly mistake the one he loves. She's the only one for him, the one so beautiful. But then again, why does he even love her in the first place? He snaps out of his thoughts when she comes down the stairs, watching him closely. She asks what he's doing there, saying she thought he'd assigned another knight to escort her. He steps forward, pulls her closer, and says he could never entrust the privilege of escorting her to another man. She blushes and averts her gaze, thinking she must not let her guard down. The magic book that might have served as a clue had been torn apart by someone. So, to gather information, she decided to attend the ball for which she had received an invitation. This time, she must uncover something valuable. When she arrives at the party, every noble turns to look at her. The girls whisper about how beautiful she is as always, though tonight there's a new air of elegance about her. The men, however, sneer among themselves, insisting she's still as promiscuous as ever. She glances around, realizing they're drawing far more attention than she anticipated. Kane leans in and warns her not to stray too far from him. Several men approach, asking her for a dance. One of them smirks and says, surely one man can't satisfy her. How about the three of them have a good time together? She looks away and curtly replies, no, thank you. A beat later, she realizes that's very unlike Lady Victoria. She quickly turns and explains that she simply doesn't have the time to entertain everyone tonight. One of the men eyes Kane and remarks, it seems she is quite attached to the man next to her. But isn't it improper to parade around with a traitor? Surely she hasn't forgiven him for what his parents did. How does the son of criminals who endangered the state dare show his face in public? She had no idea Kane carried such a burden. The original story never mentioned this. The man warns her dragging around a man like that will only tarnish her reputation. She plants a hand on her hip and scoffs that Kane hasn't done anything wrong, surprising him with her defense. The men mutter as they leave, so much for saying she would be easy. She turns to Kane, noticing him pressing a hand to his forehead and asking if he is unwell, to which he replies no and tells her not to worry. She instructs him to sit down while she gets some water, and as he watches her walk away, he wonders why she is being so kind to him, while she worries about how to gather information without him noticing. Before she can act, a cloth suddenly covers her face and she is dragged away. When she regains awareness, she finds herself in a dimly lit room surrounded by the same men, demanding why she is there and ordering them to let her go. They say she embarrassed them earlier and now they will return the favor, forcing a drink down her throat, a charm spell, telling her all she has to do is obey them, and she realizes in shock that she might end up like Kane, blindly obeying their will. The men look at her in the shop, telling her not to worry. She will realize soon enough that it's just a charm spell that wears off after a good night's sleep. Before she can process the words, Kane suddenly strikes one of the men from behind, and blood splatters across her face. He drags the man, who screams and pleads for mercy, across the floor. Dizziness washes over Victoria, and she starts to lose consciousness, but Kane catches her just in time, lifting her into his arms. His glare pins the trembling man as he warns that every one of his actions will be reported in full. Meanwhile, the nobles whisper among themselves about the attack, and her sister Fiona stands there, dazed. Victoria stirs in his arms as the carriage rocks gently, blinking awake. She sits up, the events of earlier flooding back, yet she feels neither exhaustion nor pain. Her gaze lifts to Kane, and a strange calm settles over her. How could one man feel so reassuring? He meets her eyes and tells her she should rest a bit, noting the lingering effects of the potion. Seeing her still tense, he says he will have her bedroom prepared, then asks if something is troubling her. She softly says she only wants to use the bathroom and take a bath. In the bath, her thoughts drift to what might have happened if Kane hadn't arrived. She shudders at the unknown. Behind her, Kane's voice is quiet but firm as he apologizes sincerely. Being beside her yet letting her face danger was an unforgivable failure for a knight. She tells him he's exaggerating, but he shakes his head. If he cannot protect her, his existence has no meaning. He will never let you go through that again, he swears. She is meant to fear him, yet when she slowly rises from the bath and nearly slips, he spins around and catches her just in time, concern etched on his face as he asks if she is all right. She mumbles she just felt a little dizzy, nothing serious. He unbuttons his shirt and drapes it over her, and then picks her up and says it seems she hasn't fully recovered yet, and it is best to return to the room now. She closes her eyes, thinking he unsettles her. She should be looking for a way to escape from this man, but she always ends up relying on him. As he settles around the bed, she notices the scars on his body. He apologizes for showing her such an unsightly sight. She reaches for them and asks if they hurt. He replies most of them are old wounds and do not affect his performance as a knight. She realizes there are marks from sword strikes, but there seems to be something else. She sports a tattoo and wonders if it is an engraving seal. She points it out, but he asks what seal. What is she talking about? To her shock, Kane can't see it. She wonders if it is the effect of the attraction magic. The man told her there's no need to rush, as attraction magic usually fades after sleeping, so there's no need to worry. She pauses, a flicker of worry crossing her mind. What if the potion's effect still lingers? or the attraction magic continues to work. It has to be removed as soon as possible. Kane turns, warning that she'll catch a cold if she stays like this and that he'll have a maid bring her some clothes immediately. She hesitates, gripping his hand, unsure. She's never been in a situation like this before. Not waiting for him to respond, she pulls him toward the bed and climbs on top, her heart racing. His surprise fades quickly into a delighted smile as he says she's finally accepting his feelings. Their moment shatters, however, when the door swings open and Fiona freezes at the sight. Later, they sit on the sofa, and Fiona admits how worried she had been. Hearing about the incident, she had feared the worst. She also says she heard she was forced to drink something. Victoria replies that the men said it was a magical attraction potion, but she doesn't feel anything strange now. Fiona replies that is right, the magic portions that lower-class nobles can obtain are nothing but cheap imitations. Most likely it was just a poor-quality sedative. It is completely different from the original potion that she gave her. Victoria watches her sister with a perplexed expression as her sister asks what was she honestly planning to do with Sir Kane just now, warning if the two had made physical contact, the effect of attraction magic would have reversed. In the end, she would have fallen for Kane instead of the other way around. Victoria is shocked that Fiona knows that Kane is under the effect of attraction magic, and the shock only grows when Fiona adds she was the one who gave her the potion. The teacup rattles in Victoria's hand. She forces herself to stay calm. Fiona was the one who gave Victoria the magical attraction potion, which means she was conspiring with Victoria. But was it Victoria who ordered Fiona to do it? Or is there something else behind this? But then she dismisses those thoughts abruptly. She looks up, feigning boredom, and mutters that she's tired of it. Rebellious men she dislikes, but those who obey blindly are dull as well. His relentless pursuit has grown irritating, and she decides it's time to end the spell's effect. She thinks if Fiona was the one who obtained the potion, that means she also knows how to break the attraction magic. Fiona notices her sudden change in demeanor and asks, concerned, what's the matter? This isn't like her at all. If she were still that ruthless sister who exploited others without mercy, she would have taken full advantage of this situation. She hisses how dare the son of a traitor act so arrogantly, telling her sister she never considered his status because he dared to behave with unforgivable insolence. She always told him to know his place and his limits. She even enjoyed humiliating him in front of everyone when she exposed his truth and made him bear the shame. She lets out an evil laugh, murmuring that's why whenever Victoria finally had control over him, she always felt at ease. Her sister's gaze lingers on Victoria, skeptical. But now, all of a sudden, she's become obedient and submissive. What a joke, she says. Victoria rises, weariness in her posture, and states that she's exhausted and wants to sleep, so she needs to leave immediately. At the door, her sister remarks that Victoria must be in a bad mood after all. Mood swings are part of her personality. She didn't know that Victoria treated Kane this cruelly. And forcing someone to fall in love against their will. It is a terrifying magic. She must break its effect at all costs. For her future and for Kane as well. She will walk her own path and reach the future she couldn't attain. However, for that to happen, she must find out what happened in Victoria's past. From her study room, Victoria gazes outside at the dark sky and realizes it has already gotten quite late. Even though she had the chance to be reborn, she still could not get rid of her habit of staying up late. But at the very least she is beginning to gain a deep understanding of this world's magic. Ordinary humans cannot use magic. In this world, magic can only be used by sorcerers born with special abilities. As for Victoria, she is not a sorcerer, which means she cannot use magic. The same goes for Kane and Fiona. Except through magical tools or potions crafted by sorcerers. However, due to the danger of magic being misused and the chaos it could cause, the use of such tools is highly restricted. There are even certain types of magic that have been completely banned due to their danger, and using them is considered a crime punishable by law. One such type is enchantment magic. And that makes perfect sense. If this magic were freely available, kingdoms would be thrown into turmoil. In other words, if anyone finds out that she has meddled with this magic, it won't go unnoticed. The situation is dire, but there is no need to overcomplicate things. Since she has already crossed this line, there's no choice but to find a solution. And if the problem started with a magical tool, then the solution must also come from a magical tool. Later, as Victoria heads out to the town, Kane follows her, asking where she is going. She replies to the magical tools shop. The place she's heading to is known as the Sealed Valley, a notorious district filled with chaos and crime. But amidst this darkness, there's a hidden shop that sells potions and magical tools to those who know how to find it. She turns to him, noticing his silence, and asks if he has anything to say. He replies, no. Later, the city described in the novel stands before Victoria in all its details, alive, just as she has imagined. She didn't have time to process it amidst the chaos she found herself in, but there is no doubt now. This really is the world of the fated prince and the ashen Cinderella. A man bumps into her, muttering to be careful and giving her a quick glance, but as he looks closer, he's struck. She's stunning and he can't look away. Kane waves the man off, and she trembles, flashes of that day replaying in her mind. He takes her hand gently and says the shop they're looking for is this way. Surprised, she asks what he's doing, and he replies that if she doesn't want to draw attention, this is the safest way. She knows he's right, appearing with her hood up, followed by a night escort, would be far more suspicious. Kane meets her gaze and promises he will protect her, no matter what. She looks up at him, a light blush warming her cheeks, still unsure of what he's thinking, yet the simple act of holding his hand fills her with an unshakable sense of reassurance. On the way, she notices some children ganging up on a smaller boy. Frowning, she remarks that they're picking on someone weaker. One of the boys snaps back, it's not bullying. His father is a thief. If the father is guilty, the son must pay the price too. She considers the claim, it might not be entirely baseless, but shakes her head. Even so, she thinks, what does that have to do with the child? She responds, if a parent commits a crime, does that justify punishing their child? And if it does, would it then be fair for their children to suffer the same fate in the future? People are watching, but she cannot turn away. The little boy whispers a quiet thank you. Kane stands frozen, seeing a reflection of himself in the child, and wonders if she treats everyone with such kindness, and her smile, he wants them to be hers alone. He snaps out of his thoughts when she waves a hand in front of him, teasing that he seems strange again, and asks if he's feeling unwell. He brushes it off, saying there's no problem and that they should continue to the magic shop. Outside the shop, she tells him to wait, and when he argues, she points out the shopkeeper would be too nervous around him, making it impossible for her to shop. Stepping inside, she surveys the tools, marveling at items she has only ever seen in books. When Victoria removes her hood, the shopkeeper startles and bows slightly. She murmurs that it is an honor, she never expected the governor's daughter to visit in person, and ushers her into the inner room. There, she shows her some special magical tools, including a dew of memories, a potion that allows one to relive moments from the past as if dreaming. She explains that it isn't exactly a luxury item but asks if she would like one. Victoria's eyes light up, and she agrees, saying she will take one. The shopkeeper, assuming she might not fully grasp its value, quotes a steep price, 5 million. Victoria frowns, incredulous, and points out that with that amount she could buy 10 of them. She hopes she misheard, thinking no one would attempt to deceive her, and considers reporting it to her father if that were the case. The shopkeeper stammers, flustered, and apologizes sincerely, thinking that she had assumed someone accustomed to such a luxurious life wouldn't even know the prices of these items. Victoria thinks it might be a good idea to take this chance to gather some information as well. She casually says she heard her sister recently came to this shop to buy an emotional influence potion. Is that right? The shopkeeper turns to her and says she must be mistaken. They do not sell such potions here. They are extremely rare, even counterfeit versions are sometimes sold, but obtaining a genuine one is nearly impossible. They are banned because they can alter human emotions. And even among sorcerers, only a select few can create them. She thinks so the source remains unknown, but it seems her visit here wasn't in vain. If she can trace Victoria's memories, then she will definitely find the key to breaking the influence of that magic. When Victoria steps out, she sees Kane encircled by admiring ladies, yet the moment his eyes meet hers, he turns away from them and approaches her, taking her hand gently. She can't help but wonder if this tenderness is the magic's doing, and if its effect fades, how will he perceive her then? Still, she knows there's no other option, she must break the spell's hold. Later, as Victoria drinks the potion she purchased from the shop, memories begin to surface, events never mentioned in the novel, moments that unfolded behind the scenes, hidden from her knowledge. Suddenly, she gasps at a memory and cries out Kane's name. Victoria finds herself immersed in the memories of Victoria Rose Wind. A man approaches and suggests they speak somewhere more private. She turns to him and states, Isn't he the low-born noble who was recently expelled from the party? So insignificant that even the guards barely noticed him. The man suddenly draws a knife, but Kane swiftly restrains him. He screams, demanding to be released, driven by revenge against that wretched woman, yet Kane hands him over to the guards without a word. Victoria notes Kane's actions and thinks she should make him understand, no matter how he tries to earn favor, it won't erase his reputation. Kane simply responds that he was merely performing his duty as a knight, nothing more. She finds him intriguing and muses that she might accept him as her knight if he wishes. Kane, however, reminds her that the man lost his home and fell into poverty because of her, and he cannot faithfully serve a master who lacks both mercy and loyalty. Later, Fiona remarks on that night, calling it beyond rude, how dare a descendant of traitors reject her sister's invitation. Victoria agrees, insisting he must learn his place. Fiona smiles slyly, producing a magical potion of charm and seduction, explaining that if he drinks it, he will fall madly in love with her and be entirely under her control. Victoria thought of exploiting Kane's sense of responsibility. The next day she gave some money to an old poor woman in the city, then made her collapse in front of Kane's eyes and he carried her home. As a token of gratitude, the old woman offered Kane a cup of water. But the water was mixed with the charm magic potion. As Victoria's memories continue, she watches the events unfold. After that day, Victoria Rose Wind makes Kane her knight. Our protagonist, observing everything from Victoria's perspective, thinks how dreadful it is to deceive him like this. Yet a question nags at her, why did Fiona give Victoria the seduction potion? Could she have been the one to tear the spell book in the library? The scene shifts abruptly. Lizzie, the heroine of the original novel, appears and greets Victoria, who completely ignores her and walks past. The man beside Lizzie, Giselle, asks Kane if his lady is hard of hearing. Victoria glances at him coldly and says she is not obliged to respond to greetings from commoners and him as a royal maid should also be careful who he associates with. Giselle smirks, commenting that her personality lives up to the rumors, and steps forward threateningly, hissing that if she continues like this, she will meet an early death. Victoria snaps back, demanding why he threatens her when they've never even met and tells him to stay out of her business. As she walks away, Lizzie asks Giselle if the woman was rude to him. He says no. But her end, surely it won't be a happy one. Victoria's body feels warm, and she twists in bed, wondering if it's a side effect of the magic, but knows now is not the time to dwell on it. Through seeing the body's memories, she understood something important. Victoria was attached to Kane in some way. She doesn't know what kind of feeling it was, but it was strong. And more than that, she managed to uncover other important clues. If events in this world follow the original story, then that incident is about to happen. And she might be able to find a way to break the curse through it. Later she steps outside to watch him depart and thinks just as she thought, that it has begun. An emergency mission to exterminate monsters. Monster extermination is the duty of the ruling lord, and even Kane, who rarely leaves her side, was forced to participate this time. In other words, the few days Kane will be away are the golden opportunity. He presses a gentle kiss to her hand, and she watches him, murmuring a hope that he won't get hurt. But then the thought strikes her, this isn't Victoria's usual demeanor. Within the memory, she observes Kane for the first time free from the seduction spell's influence. Even so, his unwavering sense of duty as a knight remains evident, spell or no spell. After several days, a maid approaches and informs her that a visitor has arrived, a mage from the royal court. It is Giselle, who steps forward and asks sharply what she hopes to gain from him after sending such an impassioned letter so suddenly. Giselle Flandor. One of the men who fell in love with the heroine Lizzie in the novel. He is also a mage who serves the royal family. She saw him in the memories, as if he had realized something. And if Guy Seal is a mage of such caliber, he must know a way to break the curse. She apologizes to him for the message that came off as a threat and admits she desperately needed to ask him a favor. He tells her he only came to warn her because what she wrote was absolutely ridiculous. He has no secrets to hide, and he has heard plenty about her bad reputation before, but that kind of threat doesn't work on him. She smirks and asks, so he wouldn't mind if she revealed to the public their secret missions he carries out under the king's orders. His face contorts into anger. In the novel, Giselle presented himself publicly as a loyal and exceptional mage, but in secret he carried out espionage missions under direct royal command for confidential reasons. She knows this is risky. If he knows what she's implying, he might kill her on the spot. But to her shock, he says he doesn't have the time to waste, so she needs to get to the point as quickly as she can. She gambled on what she knew from the original story, that Giselle believes in love and justice and avoids conflict. And it seems her gamble paid off. She asks him to teach her how to break the charm magic. He flinches when she says he's aware, right, that she used a seduction spell on her knight. She doesn't understand why he hasn't revealed it yet. He rises and says, calmly, that her soul doesn't match her body. This time she flinches. Giselle isn't supposed to know Victoria so well, how could he have noticed that instantly? He lifts her quivering face, instructing her to steady herself and leans in after sealing the door with magic. She questions his intent as his low voice brushes her ear, promising to reveal the method to break the seduction spell. Outside, Fiona frowns, perplexed. Her sister has never interacted with a royal court mage, and the constant interruptions render the conversation almost indecipherable. She concludes that marriage is the obstacle and wonders, with anger, what he truly seeks from her. Also, Victoria has changed a lot lately. She is not the same as she used to be. She was always naive and easy to manipulate, but now she's different. In any case, she cannot let things continue like this. And Kane will have to play the proper role in her plan. Giselle leans close, whispering that the only way to break the charm magic is to physically unite with him. He pulls back, a teasing edge in his tone. For her, that must be simple, right? Her lips part in surprise, realizing that if Giselle's method is correct, Fiona had deceived her all along. He notices her momentary distraction and asks what is with that expression. She is using something, isn't she? She admits she doesn't fully understand how it works, typical of magic tool users. Does she understand now? He presses. She nods, explaining that the spell cannot be undone by a magic tool alone. He questions if she used anything besides the attraction potion, warning that excessive magic on a human body can have grave consequences. Be careful, he says, then adds, now their deal is over. She calls after him, asserting she never agreed it was one-sided, keeping his dangerous secret isn't worth what he has given her so far. After a brief discussion, Giselle concurs, promising to return and show his face when ready before departing. She watches him leave, relieved, knowing what she is about to do must remain a secret. Meanwhile, Guy Seal thinks the vessel and the soul are not in harmony and she knows his mission is a state secret. And also after the content of the conversation that just occurred, it might be necessary to keep an eye on her a bit longer. He then looks around the mansion, thinking although only humans are supposed to be here, the magical aura is far too strong. On the other hand, Fiona thinks lately things haven't been going well and everything is starting to fall apart. Her older sister looks like she is a completely different person. Fiona thought she was lucky. She lived in an environment that lacked nothing, and she possessed beauty, intelligence and ability in perfect balance. Her day started uneventfully and ended uneventfully, and that was good because the future was easy to predict. There was no need to make an effort to change anything. She used to watch her sister and always thought causing trouble was something only fools like her could do. Though she had astonishing beauty, she always ruined it with her own behavior. She couldn't understand her, but even she had a hobby she couldn't confess to anyone. Collecting magical tools. Especially those dangerous, generally forbidden ones. For someone like her, who was constantly bored, that sense of danger was the only pleasure. And in the middle of those mutinous days, he appeared. It seems he took on a new family name himself, trying to escape the disgrace. Fiona couldn't help but think as long as he was a curse-born he will never be happy no matter how properly he tries to live. And wouldn't it be better to die and be reborn? That would be more efficient. She wasn't particularly interested in Kane until she obtained that magical tool. A magic mirror that shows different possibilities of the future, but she wasn't actually interested in the future. But in that future mirror, she saw her sister being stabbed to death by him as he whispered he loved her. Fiona observed the scene with a dark, twisted smile, as though witnessing some exquisite, horrifying masterpiece. She couldn't believe her sister could make a face like that. She had become a complete prisoner of her expression in the moment of death. For the first time, she felt her heart beat faster. No matter what happens, she wants to see that beautiful ending with her own eyes. In that future, Kane seemed obsessed with her older sister, but that couldn't be imagined at all from how they acted in that moment. She wondered how did it come to that, and at that moment she remembered a certain magical tool. And then she suggested that magical tool to her. A few days later, Victoria paces around the place, thinking Fiona was manipulating her actions in a way that kept the attraction spells from being undone. But what is her true goal? She startles as Kane steps into view, lowering himself to one knee and says he has returned to her side. He then gets up and pulls her hand against his cheek, asking if anything strange happened while he was gone. Victoria watches him with a soft gaze, and thinks maybe the reason she's starting to soften towards him is that she has come to truly understand that Kane is not her enemy. He's not someone she needs to be wary of by nature. She smiles, praising him for a job well done. He faced a magical beast on his mission. Was he injured? He mumbles she is worrying over him again, and she chastises herself for being so careless without realizing it. Then he smiles, calm and certain, saying he is lucky to be cared for by the one he loves, and that nothing brings him greater joy. She hears him, but she knows the real Kane does not truly love Victoria. All his words are just words the spell forces him to say. And if she doesn't undo the spell? Her eyes widen as she catches thinking that. Kane notices the sudden tension in her expression and asks softly if something is troubling her. She forces a smile, murmuring that it's nothing, while silently promising herself she will undo the spell. Later, she speaks with Giselle, who has come to see her once again. Kane passes by the room, catching fragments of their conversation, and freezes. Victoria leans in, telling Giselle she's counting on him, since no one else can know of this. Giselle smiles faintly, murmuring she is right, and then vanishes. Moments later, Kane appears behind her, his presence suffocating, his voice low as he asks who she was speaking to. Before she can answer, he seizes her hand, pushes her onto the bed, and looms over her, asking if he imagined hearing something. She struggles, telling him to let her go, but his face darkens because she didn't deny it. Without warning, he claims her lips in a demanding kiss, silencing her protests. When he pulls back, he is grinning wildly as he whispers, "Does she really think she can run away from him?" And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.